Hey y'all, it's Megan, and in today's video, we are sewing up this adorable little Kindle sleeve, and it has a front pocket. The finished size of this is going to be 5 inches by 7 inches. So depending on what Kindle and what year you have it, you may need to adjust the pieces a little bit or the seam allowance. There's a 3/8 inch seam, so you can always take a 1/4 inch seam if you need to. First step is going to be to cut out your pieces. You need one main and one lining and one batting or fusible fleece in the back piece. You also need one main, one lining, and one batting of the front piece. Then you need one pocket piece and one binding piece and a button. The binding piece you're going to press like bias, so press it in half to find a center crease, then press the long ends towards the center and press it one more time. And we're going to use this binding piece to finish the top of the pocket. You can see I had a clip at the top edge of the pocket because it is almost a perfect square, so it can get a little confusing. Just make sure before you add the binding that you're adding it to the top and that it's the same width as your other pieces. There's an extra binding, so you can use this as your loop for your button if you wanted to. You could also use elastic, or you could even use some Velcro if you have that on hand, or a snap if you didn't want to use the button. So go ahead and edge stitch this binding to finish off the top of the pocket, and I'm just going to continue to sew, and then you can trim the extra binding off again and use it as a loop for your button later. Go ahead and set that little extra piece of binding aside. If you are going to use elastic instead, then you can go ahead and just toss this little piece. We won't use it. Grab your main front piece and your batting front piece. If you're using fusible fleece, then go ahead and fuse it to the wrong side of the main. If you're not using fusible, then I like to use a little bit of basting spray to just help hold that batting in place. You could also hand or machine baste it real quick. Put your front piece right side up, and you're going to take your pocket piece and you're going to align it at the bottom. And we are going to baste it along the sides and the bottom with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And once you have that basted, then you're going to take your lining front piece and you're going to put it right sides together with that main front piece, and you are going to stitch them together along the top with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once they are stitched together, then you are going to press that seam toward the lining, and we are going to understitch on the lining side so that it doesn't peek out. And then you're going to press that lining toward the wrong side. Set that aside for a moment, and I have my main back piece with my batting on the wrong side, and I'm just folding it in half so I can find the center. And then you're going to grab your loop binding piece or your elastic, and you're just going to fold that elastic or loop binding in half and pin it at the center top of your main back piece, and you're going to baste it along the top. Now take your main back piece and lay it right sides up, and you're going to take your front piece and you are going to put it right sides down so that the right sides are facing each other, and you're going to align that front piece with the bottom of the back piece. You could baste this on if you wanted to, and then you're going to take your lining back piece and you are going to also put it right sides down so that the lining pieces are also right sides together. And we are going to pin or clip this around all of the edges, and we're going to sew around the entire thing, leaving a small opening at the top above your front piece. And you're just going to leave about a 2-inch opening so that we can flip it right sides out later. You're going to stitch the entire thing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then we are going to clip the corners, and you can also trim down the batting or the fleece from the seam allowance so it's not too bulky. You could trim down all the seams if you wanted to, and then press that opening we left 3/8 inch toward the wrong side before going ahead and flipping it right side out through that little hole that we left. Once you have it flipped, make sure to press the corners out nicely with a chopstick and then use your iron to press it really nice. Make sure not to melt your elastic if you used it. Now we just need to close the opening that we left along the top. So to do that, you're going to top stitch around this little top flap portion about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge to close that opening and finish it off. The final step is going to be to fold this little flap down and use your favorite marking tool to mark where your button needs to be. And then just add your button. Make sure you're only going through the pocket layer and not through any other layers. Once you have it sewn on, then just tie it off and your Kindle sleeve is complete. As always, if you have any questions, you can leave them down below and I will try to answer them. If you make them, then we would love to see it posted in our Facebook group or tag us on Instagram at Made for Mermaids, hashtag Made for Mermaids Patterns.